I did you get the um the test results or the PFT results and everything I sent you there?
I did. I
Okay.
saw your the bronchial dilator tests showing your FEV1 and yeah, so all those tests I did view. I noticed that you're on the both pre and post. Post was normal, of course.
Mhm.
The pretest was showing some obstruction in the FEV1, uh, and this was, of course, an indication of some blockages. But I don't know if you've ever seen a diagram. Let me just show you here.
Sure.
I'm going to change this background here just so you can see a couple of. Um, okay, so what we're testing in these tests is the capacity of your lung and the amount of volume, of course, you can take into the lung and expel in 1 second. And of course,
Right.
that volume was around 71%. Anything, of course, lower than 70 indicates a possible obstruction, of which your doctor mentioned there was a mild obstruction, and yet post after the dilation, everything was back to normal. So that leads me to believe that what we're dealing here is pre going into the lung, because I mean you're 28 years old, correct?
Right.
Are you doing any cardio workouts weekly or daily or?
Well, I am now. I just started kind of this week to try and um, just kind of get back into shape. Before the test and everything, I didn't do anything like kind of intense cardio. I just like I'd do more weightlifting stuff rather than like cardiovascular
Yeah,
workouts. But
I see. Well, that's another way to force volume in and out of the lungs is cardiovascular, but that doesn't change the anatomy of the fact that at your age, a non-smoker, correct?
right.
Right, and you probably don't drink alcohol or very little, I would assume.
Yeah, nothing, just moderation.
Moderation. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah, usually 1 or 2 cups.
And
Nothing
what
too
about
much.
what about soda pop?
No, never really.
What about carbonated water?
No,
Sports
no,
drinks like Gatorade?
no. I usually stay away from sugary stuff like that.
Okay. So on a typical day, what would you have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What do your meals look like on a daily basis?
So like breakfast is usually like I'll do like 4 eggs and then 2 egg whites and then usually turkey bacon or like ground beef. Then with some like peppers, onions, tomatoes. Then I'll always have like fruits, either a banana or something like that, an orange. And then I'll usually have like lunch will be like a salad with chicken or broccoli, something along those lines. Usually I have like a snack of like yogurt or like some tuna in there too, and maybe like some oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
And then dinner is usually some sort of chicken based meal. Otherwise, it'll be like sometimes I'll have steak every once in a while, but um,
Okay.
and then another vegetable. Usually, I try to have vegetables or fruits with every meal. So
I assume that you're familiar with TB12, the book TB12.
I'm not.
Okay, well, TB stands for Tom Brady. Are you familiar with
Okay.
Tom? Are you familiar with Tom Brady's workout and his diet?
Not really. No, I haven't heard much about that.
Okay, well, Tom Brady's 43, and of course, as you know, he did very well on this last Sunday.
Right.
In fact, the whole thing about performance, particularly as you get older, and you're at 28. The guy that he went up against is 25, So that's 18 years younger than he is. And the
Right.
reason for that is not just circulation, but the quality of the blood. And the quality of the blood is determined not by how many eggs you eat or how much steak you eat, but the blood is determined by how many green vegetables you eat, how much good healthy fat that you eat, how much salt that you're taking into your diet, and the type of water that you're drinking. If you look at this picture behind me, this is the natural anatomical structure of a red blood cell. Okay.
Yeah.
Based upon your tests that you did for your lung capacity and the possible instruction, I don't believe is an obstruction of the bronchial. I believe it's a pathological coagulation due to your diet. So this is what happens when you're eating 3 or 4 eggs for breakfast and bacon. Okay, you may be, because of your youth, you may be creating blood like this, but this is what happens after you eat 3 or 4 eggs, and this is what it looks like after.
Hmm.
Okay, the problem with that is the blood is not separate. It's not even in color, even in shape, even in size. It's impossible for the blood to go into the pulmonary system to drop off. By the way, your carbon dioxide levels were everything as far as the elimination of exhaling of carbon dioxide was fine. But what happens is when blood becomes sticky, and it gets sticky from high carbohydrate diets or high protein diets, and the stickiness of that, is not just from sugar, but it's also from other acids like uric acid, sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, nitric acid, oxalic acid. These are acids that are in high concentrations in beef, chicken, pork, and fish. Predominantly, you're on a high protein diet and a low carbohydrate diet, which you need to reverse. I would recommend that you reverse that if you want to increase your lung capacity. And so I do this with long distance runners. I did it, for Tom Brady and his book, you can get it. It's called TB12. Now he has some protein, animal protein in his diet. He's on what I call, and for you in your youth, not because you're dealing, I mean, they say you have a mild pulmonary obstruction. The pulmonary obstruction is coming from the coagulation of the blood. Okay. Now, I don't know if you went in fasting to that test. Did you go in fasting?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yes.
So how many hours before you received the testing?
Let's see. I did the test at about noon,
And
and
what
I
did you,
hadn't eaten all morning.
all morning? What did you eat the night before then?
Let's see. I had a. I'm trying to think what day that was. I think I had a burger down at the hotel bar. That's what I had. A burger and some fries.
Burger and fries.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those are types of foods which will cause this type of coagulation of the blood. Now, when you're young, you can get away with it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But for your testing, it's a good idea whenever you go back to the testing, is that whatever you eat doesn't cause blood coagulation. Because what happens is, if we go back to this picture, I don't know if I showed you this, but when we go back to the picture, blood has to go into the pulmonary system, into the capillary pools here, single file. If it's all grouped together like this or clotted together, it can't go. It's got to go in this way. See if I've got another picture of this to show you. I may or may not have one. I just want to
You're
give you.
saying Sorry,
Yeah,
so you're saying so like for the next time you go into the test, fasting would be preferable?
yeah, a liquid fasting. So any
Okay.
and with and anything that's plant-based, something like you know, a fresh green juice or a avocado shake with greens, something, prior to that, or something more in a liquid state that's not going to cause the blood to coagulate together, causing the ability for that 1 second you took in as much oxygen as you could, and then you
Mhm.
expel that out. I mean, and they're
Right.
testing the volume of your exhale to determine that percentage, which came out to around 71%. For your age and for what they're looking for is they're looking for something over 75%. So you took in 100%, you excelled only 70, you left 25% back.
Right.
So the volume percentage was off. And then at post was 85, it should be in the 90s post bronchial
Okay.
dilation. So there's lots of ways to get that to come up, increase your lung capacity by doing breathing exercises. Breathing exercises is you breathe in through the nose, and what you do is you breathe in through the nose as deep as you can breathe in, and then with the same breath, while you're holding that, you take a breath in through the lungs. So it's in through the nose, then through the mouth, and then you breathe out through the mouth.
Okay.
Do you feel what's happening is when you breathe in through the nose, you have a capacity, a volume of air you can breathe in. But then as you take the next breath, while you're holding the first breath in through the mouth, it pushes that all the way down and
Right.
forces oxygen to fill in the lower lobes of the lung. So when you're exercising, when you're running,
Okay.
when you're doing cardio, you see how you do that, and you can do that throughout the day. It's called deep breathing. A lot of us, including myself, only breathe shallow. You want to do deep breathing, to increase your oxygen capacity and the ability to naturally dilate in order for the blood to drop off its carbon dioxide to release that, so you're getting a higher percentage out. Okay, so that's just a simple exercise that
Yeah.
you can do. Okay, the other things you can do is
Okay.
the other thing you can do, whether you decide to limit your proteins, animal proteins, I would eliminate chicken, pork, and I would focus more on organic, organically raised grass-fed beef or uh, fish. Okay, not farm fish, but wild fish.
Okay.
Okay, and so visually, what you would see is you'd see a big salad with olive oil and lemon, no vinegar, because vinegar will cause the blood to do this again. It'll cause the blood to coagulate. So it gets into, this form here. See, this was the capacity that was actually a false positive. I don't believe you have a deficiency in your lung capacity. I believe that the blood, in fact, I'd have to test this, and I can test this by looking at your blood, that this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a problem of coagulation of the blood before it goes into the pulmonary system. Now, why is that
Right.
important to understand? It's important to understand is because blood has to go into the pulmonary system single file. You cannot go into the lung to dump your carbon dioxide and pick up carbon dioxide. This is the number one cause of death. And to force oxygen using ventilation is responsible for 90% of the deaths in the hospital, because the
Mhm.
problem is before the entrance, not after the entrance. People that are suffering from chronic obstructive, or severe SARS is severe, obstructive respiratory diseases or syndromes, it's the entrance into. And what's happening is when you eat a food that's high in acid. Now, acid is a waste product of the breakdown. So there's 4 acids of beef, chicken, pork, and fish: uric acid, sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, and nitric acid. Those acids cause the cells to stick together. And one of the worst foods you can eat that causes this pathological blood coagulation are eggs.
Okay.
So when you eat eggs the day before, it takes about 3 hours to clear that out. So when you went to have the test, you were already in this condition rather than in what you should be after you clear some of this out in this condition. You see the difference?
Yeah.
The difference is,
sorry. So you're saying so like when you eat those types of foods and you get that, the thicker blood, or however you put it,
it's thicker blood.
how long does it take for that to kind of clear up? Do you say like 3 hours? You said for eggs.
For eggs, 3 days.
3 days. Okay.
3 days for eggs. Yeah. Chicken's about the same. Meat and chicken, things that are high fibrous, it's non-soluble, it doesn't liquefy. So it creates like, 1 or 2 weeks before it actually gets eliminated from your body. So these acids are kind of pouring into the bloodstream, causing the blood to stick together, and that reduces the volume, the oxygen volume that you can take in and the carbon dioxide that you can release. But here again, all the other tests were normal, which leads me to this is not a mild pulmonary obstruction. This is a pathological blood coagulation prior to going into the pulmonary system that's creating this false positive. So I don't agree with the results of your tests. I believe they're false positive. And that the key to this is not that you're unhealthy. If you're a smoker but here again, eating your diet's really heavy in protein. Okay. And I know that's the thought is that's how you build muscle. But in comparison, or protein, you build muscle out of blood, and blood is built with chlorophyll, oil, water, and salt. So it's the protein is not an issue. Muscle is built from blood, bone is built from blood, and blood is built from some of the strongest animals in the world. Follow this protocol: greens, grass, vegetables, fruit, like silverback gorilla, the rhinoceros, the elephant. These are the strongest, animals in the world, and they derive their strength from a plant-based alkaline diet. And that's what Tom Brady follows. That's why he was able to perform at the level he performed at. And I've worked with many NFL teams. Are you familiar with Gronk? That's his nickname.
Oh yeah.
Gronkowski.
Rob Gronkowski, yeah.
Yeah, he's on the same protocol, 80-20. So visually, it's a little piece of meat with lots of vegetables. So lots of broccoli with a little piece of meat. And that meat is organically fed beef or fish. No chicken, no pork.
Okay. Is that what that 80-20 means? Like the
80%
like
plant-based. Yeah, I'm just telling you what he does. Okay.
Right.
You can go 100%, and that's even better. But I'm not suggesting that to you, because that's maybe a huge leap right now for you. But it's more a mental leap than anything. But you just have to change your proportions.
Okay.
You can be successful at this because, as far as this lung capacity, it's already there. You just have to open up, the ability for the blood to flow to the lungs. Okay.
Sure.
And pick up oxygen and release carbon dioxide, vice versa. And then doing your breathing exercises. And you breathe through the nose. Are you a nose breather or a mouth breather?
Nose.
Nose.
For the most part. Yeah.
So when you're just sitting, your mouth is closed and you're breathing through the nose. Most of how we breathe in doesn't reach full capacity unless we're doing some sort of cardio.
Right.
So, walking, jogging, swimming, some here again, this can be very, very helpful to you because it forces deep breathing or deep breathing exercise, the very simple one that I shared with you.
Hmm.
But you're a healthy young man. There's no reason you couldn't go back in 2 weeks and just literally blow the. I bet you got 3 months, to
Right.
work up
Yeah.
this year. It's a lot of time. I don't know if you want to wait that long. Maybe the anticipation of that, but here again, you just don't want to go in to a test like that with just after eating the night before a heavy meal. A burger
Okay.
and fries is just not going to cut it. It's going to cause, as you see down at the bottom here, it's going to cause the blood to premature coagulate until all those acids are cleared out to where it can break apart. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So this is how you want your red blood cells, free flowing. Now, one thing that will help you, which a lot of young people are taking, is an increase of nitric oxide. So the nitric oxide helps to clean the arteries if there's any buildup plaque. But using ultrasound, we just don't see a lot of plaque buildup on 20-year-olds unless you've just got a terrible diet and it, other than you're heavy on the protein. I just don't see that. Of course, I'm not looking in your refrigerator to see exactly what's in there, but but you just want to green it up a lot and
Okay.
fresh foods organic. You're home now, and I don't know if
Yep.
your family's listening to this conversation, but
They're not right now, no, but
okay. Do you have any questions so far?
yeah, so obviously the diet is a huge thing. I'm just thinking for like,
It's 95% of it.
yeah, um like,
The exercise is huge too. So the cardio that you're going to
yeah,
add in, the breathing exercises.
right.
Yeah.
But
But go ahead.
for like breakfast or something, I mean, it's, to me, it's like I don't eat greens for breakfast. It's, I
No,
don't,
you'd
like,
have
what would you recommend for a breakfast
for
meal?
breakfast, you can have a smoothie, a green smoothie. You can have avocados. You can have a green juice, uh, and you can put cucumber and spinach and a little green apple in there. But you want to green this thing up as much as possible. I would incorporate more avocado. I don't know if you like avocado or not, but I would
Mhm.
incorporate more tomato and avocado. So guacamole, just leave the chips and try to reduce the bread, the complex carbohydrates. But the more avocado, because it's also one of the best sources of protein. It's 15% protein. But when you're having dinner or lunch,
Right.
you can have, I noticed that you had some tuna, but tuna, trout,
Hmm.
sea bass, and then the grass-fed beef. Here again, I don't eat that. I've been a professional athlete in my 20s. I was a professional athlete, and when I turned pro, which was in the 70s. I was a vegan in the 70s, so that was kind of weird. But
Yeah.
you know, that's how I went. Uh, and for Gronk and Tom, I mentioned them because we all watched how their performance went. I mean,
Right.
these guys are in their 40s. So and you can see their level of play has not waned at all. And the reason for that is it's all about circulation. So to help your circulation, I developed a product to reduce inflammation, to open up circulation, break up sclerotic plaque that builds up on the walls of our veins and arteries. It's called L-arginine Max, and it has three
Okay.
aminos in it. It has L-arginine, L-citrulline, and L-ornithine, with several very powerful antioxidants to help mediate some of the acids from some of the other let's say that 20% that you're eating, to reduce that acid load so the blood doesn't stick together.
Okay.
But you're gonna be fine. I don't see, you know, any challenge, even with a mild obstruction, if that is the case. I'm not buying that to be the case. I would have to do other
Right.
testing, but it's there, you know, it's right there. The other thing you can do that'll help you to build lung capacity is nebulization. Now, nebulization, are you familiar with a nebulizer?
Not
Well,
no, I don't think
yeah,
so.
it's an apparatus where you put a mask on. It's like, have you seen people breathing oxygen? But
Right.
you can actually do that with a nebulizer for about 30 minutes a day. We're actually putting not O2 in, but O1, which is atomic or nascent oxygen. Now, the reason for
Okay.
O1, that carries a negative charge, and that negative charge will neutralize and help to maintain the alkaline design of the body fluids. That's the key, is to keep, I don't know if you're familiar with biochemistry at all, but it's a simple pH scale from 0 to 14.
Hmm.
Ideally, the pH of your blood is around 7.365. Your fluids that surround all the cells, those are called interstitial fluids. Let me just show you another picture here. So you have cells that make up all your organs, and the fluid around those cells called interstitial fluid. This is a blood vessel. So the fluids here are called vascular fluids, and the fluids inside are called intracellular fluids. These fluids here, the body tries to maintain alkalinity, but any waste or toxin from that egg, let's say that you ate like 3 the other day or this morning, pushes this waste out into the interstitial fluid. And when that sulfuric acid goes into this area, then this is what you end up with. You end up clotting your blood. And so you take it from this to this by eating just one egg.
Right.
So that reduces your lung capacity.
Okay.
So these are things that I've been studying. In fact, I did my dissertation on my doctorate on pathological blood coagulation, and I wrote and published a paper in June of this year on COVID-2, which is COVID-19, which is COVID-2, on SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome or disorder. This clears up very nicely within 24 to 72 hours. You could actually go back next week and get a whole different test.
Yeah.
That's my perception. That would be more accurate if I was to actually test your blood and to see that, but you're in Wisconsin, we're here, and that makes it a little more
Right.
challenging. So based on your outcome of the bronchial test that you did and the percentages, I would agree with your doctor. There's mild obstruction, but the mild obstruction is happening due to the entrance is not allowing blood to flow in single file because it's coagulated together. I know
Okay.
I've said that several times, but hopefully you're kind of catching the picture. If you can
Yeah,
visualize
no, absolutely.
it, you can visualize that, and normal is this. And this is what COVID blood looks like. Notice the appendages
Hmm.
coming off the cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's an aging of the cell. See if I can show you another picture, maybe a little larger. Well, here's the breakdown of the fluids. Here you can see you have blood fluids, you have interstitial fluids, and you have intracellular fluids. But those are the three. Where the problem is in the interstitial fluids, not the blood. Blood's coagulating together, but wastes are pulling back, and this is causing a stickiness here. And then when acids come in from the small intestine, into the blood that cause cells to stack together. And of course, if acids aren't eliminated, then they're crystallized. So this is what acids look like in a solid state. So that plaque or that sclerotic plaque that builds up on people as they get older, I would be very surprised if you may have some of these crystals. I'd be very surprised if they're causing a restriction. The restriction,
Okay.
once again, is caused by the fact that blood can't come in. It's kind of like going into the bar. You go in one person at a time, but everybody goes in at the same time.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So,
Right.
so this can be changed by doing cardio exercising. It can change by drinking more alkaline water. So the water you drink should be at a pH of 9.5 or 10. And so when you go to the store and buy water, and if you don't go to the store and buy water, then you should take purified water or filter water and add alkaline drops to it to raise the pH up to 10.
Okay.
That single thing, if you did nothing but change that and started exercising, would change the dynamic of your outcomes on your test. But for the insurance policy, if you can get Tom Brady's book, TB 12, and then I would also recommend looking at chapter 5 and chapter 11 of the pH Miracle book. Just because it outlines the protocol, and there's lots of recipes. So there's recipes in there that anybody can do that are for blended. And I don't know if you have access to a blender or a juicer, but those are two very important tools that your family can help you with more blended foods that would help you accelerate this healing process. Here again, you have youth on your side. You don't have years of inverted lifestyle. I don't perceive you live in a toxic environment environmentally. But I'm just thinking about things that you can do to help yourself, just ace this test that you need to do. So are you going to go to Colorado to the Air Force Academy there?
No. So I went to just a local university and got my degree. And then I got hired by a National Guard unit in Minnesota here. So I already did the college thing. So basically just do my physical and then get sent to pilot training from there. So.
Well, good. Well, I've coached a lot of athletes at a high level. I've coached a lot of people, very, very sick people. And I'm happy to help you out so that you can get through this.
I did have a question about, so like you mentioned the COVID a little bit about how the COVID. So when I had COVID back in November and how that affects, is that more of like a blood related thing, or is it actually?
No, it's a blood disorder. It's the same thing. PCR, the polymerase tests, testing for genetic fragments. The PCR test doesn't differentiate if this genetic fragment that they're testing, they put it into a machine and they run a cycle. Okay, nothing shows up. They run it again, nothing shows up. They run it again, nothing shows up. They keep running it. These are called cycles. They run it 30 times, no COVID. They run it 35 times, no COVID. Once they hit the threshold of 35, they're supposed to stop. Okay, but they don't. They take it up to 40 and then 45, and then all of a sudden something shows up. But the something is they don't know what the something is.
Right.
So 99.9% of all the tests are false positive. Now the symptoms. Now I looked at your current systems based on the test, and you're asymptomatic. Okay. If you went back I don't know if you lost your taste or not. Was that one of the
I
symptoms?
did, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the symptoms is loss of taste, could be a loss of hearing, lightheadedness, dizziness. That's circulation.
Okay.
We're back to the same thing. We're back to the acid test, you know. So one thing you can do for me that would be very helpful to test exactly where you're at is in the morning, there's ebbs and tides. The tide of interstitial fluid acidity, because that's where everything gets dumped to. It's like the septic tank of the body. The interstitial fluid is the largest body of water, the largest organ of the human body. Second is the skin. But this is where the blood and the body cells dump all of its metabolic waste. So when you're exercising, you're using energy, you're producing an acid called lactic acid, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the body doesn't get rid of that, how do you feel if you retain lactic acid?
You get sore.
You get sore, you
Right.
have pain. So if the body can't get rid of it, it pushes it out into the muscle. Well, it's in the muscle. The body has to get rid of it. Guess where it dumps it? It dumps it in that interstitial fluid. And that interstitial fluid has to get rid of it through the lymphatic system and then through urination. So in the morning is the highest or the most toxic or most acidic time of the day, is first thing in the morning. So your first and
Okay.
second urine. You need to get some pH hydrant paper, test strips, and test it throughout the day for the next 72 hours. And then we'll see what the ebbs and tides are, because in the afternoon around 3 p.m. is the most alkaline time of the day for urine pH. Now, urine pH is a product of the waste in the fluids that surround all your cells, brain cells, heart cells, muscle cells. And of course, if that doesn't get moved out, then you start having cellular breakdown, or that acid will cause cells to break down. And if it builds up, it gets pushed back in the blood, which causes pathological blood coagulation. Or the blood can't get rid of its waste, which causes the blood to coagulate together, like I was showing you, and it can't get in to the door. It can't get into the door into the pulmonary system to release its carbon dioxide. Now that wasn't a problem post-test, but it was a problem pre-test. So it's I'm concluding that you're creating a scenario that's relates specifically to blood coagulation, which is the number one cause of the symptoms that are associated with the flu or a fever. Now, did you have a fever?
No, it
Okay, so
was
no fever. It was just loss of taste.
lost the taste, and I could feel like felt like kind of a little bit of congestion, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, and they tested you, and you tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next time you go back, if you decide that, or if is something that they want you to test negative on, this is all going to change for you as you change your diet. Because when they're testing and PCR testing, it's really good. This is now, because this is the difference. One after President Biden's inauguration, the World Health Organization said no more 44 cycles in PCR testing. They dropped it down to the scientific max to 35. So that just reduced false positives by 97%.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get political. I'm just telling you scientifically what happened in the announcement of the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
So the perception is, oh, things are better. Things are better because they're not ramping up the cycles, giving out false positives. Even though you had symptoms, it wasn't related to COVID. It was related to the same issue that's showing up with your pulmonary system and the inability to remove that, or to remove or exhale carbon dioxide, or the volume of air that you're exhaling in that
Sure.
FEV1 test, that 1 second test. That's going to improve on this type of protocol. I don't think it, I know it. As far as the test, that's a mood issue now.
Sure.
Okay. So that's going to change just for the base. And you have to ask this question to those who are testing. you have to make sure that they don't go over the scientific limit of PCR testing, which is 35 revolutions or cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they go over that, it could be anything. I mean, it's not
Right.
even specific at 35. In fact, the
Okay.
Nobel Prize winner, Carrie Mullis, said you cannot use PCR testing to identify anything. Yeah, you're identifying genetic matter, but you can't associate it specifically by that. You have to use other scientific methods. The gold standard is called Koch's postulates or Rivers postulates. But these are scientific acceptable ways to identify a microorganism, a germ. And that has never been done with COVID. Now the symptom, for example, of corona, which means to crown, when you're looking at these cells, I want you to understand this. You can see the crowning effect here. You can see
Right.
the appendages coming out, the crowning on these cells. That's an aging of the membrane due to chemical or radiation poisoning. So you have to be careful that you limit the amount of EMF that you're exposed to, particularly prior to the test, and I would say 72 hours. So limit your cell phone use, limit your computer use, this type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is a contributing factor to cellular breakdown. Do you have to have a PCR test as part of your qualifications for school?
So I do, since I had none of this test wasn't done for anyone else except me, just because I had COVID. So I had to do all these extra tests. And one of them was the PFT, which is what they found they found the low FEV1.
Yes.
But basically, when I go back, I'm just gonna have to do the PFT again.
Great. All
And
right, if that's it. So that'll be great. So you're gonna ace that.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you already started your cardio, right? What are you, jogging, or you're on a treadmill?
So I'm doing rowing and treadmill. So running on treadmill and then doing
Great.
the rowing machine.
Well, watch your breath. Make sure you're breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth.
Okay.
A lot of times, just to release the carbon dioxide, sometimes like I take 3 breaths in, that type of thing. The other is you can force oxygen in by, as I mentioned, taking it in through the nose and then through the mouth to push, so you increase that capacity. Rowing is going to help you to do that. Okay. So what else? Okay, so test the urine of the pH. Let's see what's going on with your interstitial fluids. That's inexpensive. You can get pH hydrant paper at the local drugstore, at your local health food store, or you can order it phmiracleproducts.com. And then I would recommend starting to drink the beverage that many of these top athletes drink, and that's the green drink. And it's basically a dehydrated pulverized greens of grasses and other green vegetables that you put in water, stir it up, and drink it. The other thing that will help you build blood is chlorophyll. And you can put chlorophyll in the water with the greens, because chlorophyll molecularly is identical to hemoglobin. So this will help build your blood. Healthier blood means a better test for you, better circulation. And then the L-arginine max to help improve your blood circulation. Here again, these are the things that are going to help you with your overall testing, but your overall health, wellness, and fitness. This is what I would suggest. Did we catch all your questions?
Yeah, let me look here. So we said the normal FEV1 to FEV is
75%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a little bit.
Yeah, you were 71 point something. I mean.
Yeah, 71.35. I guess the last thing would be with COVID. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of, data to go off of, but I mean, is it kind of a common theme that this is, something that's people will test low on and it improves with time, or is it,
Well,
is there just not enough?
Well, what it is forced expulsion of metabolic and dietary acids being pushed out through the orifices of the body. So the high fever is body induced to expulse acids or wastes out through the pores of the skin. That's called
Sure.
influenza or the flu. Pneumonia is a higher valence or a higher significant alarming situation of cellular breakdown giving rise to more yeast in the lung. So pneumonia is a yeast outfection that's developed by severe acidic condition of the interstitial fluids. That's why I want to check your interstitial fluids in the morning to see and ideally that number should be above 7.2, but to force that up to 8.4, that's even better. So anytime that pH drops below 7.2, you take some basic salts which are made by the stomach, sodium and potassium bicarbonate. You take a scoop of that in water and you drink it to raise the pH up. But these are support products to support the alkaline design of the body fluids. But before we go to that point, it'd be a good idea to test your urine just to see exactly over a 72-hour period. Every time you urinate, you test it. You pee on a strip. It's color coded, so it shows you a color. The color you're looking for is a dark green to a blue color.
Okay.
And if it's yellow, or there's no color, then that's also. But the color table is there on the actual paper, so you can write down the number. The kind of paper you should get is 0.5 increments, 0.5 increments. So it goes like from 4.5 or 5 to 5.5 to 5.5 to 6 to 6.5, 7.
Sure.
So it's in 0.5 increments.
Okay.
But ideally, for you want to keep your pH in the ideal level. The interstitial is above 7.2.
Right.
Okay. You don't want to be going to a test with a pH in the 5s. You just don't want to do that because it's not going to turn out probably the way that you want it to. As far as COVID is concerned, and I look at it as a case pandemic, case-demic. The cases are based upon PCR testing, which is not a test that determines, severe acute respiratory disorders. So 99.9% of all the testing is false positives or false negatives. False negatives, I mean, there are no false negatives because you're not testing for a virus. You're testing for genetic fragments, which could be your own cellular fragments that are broken down due to the fact that the environment has been compromised through an acidic lifestyle, which comes from lack of exercise or not getting good rest or breathing in toxic air or drinking toxic fluid or toxic water or eating acidic foods. So I'm going to send you a list of foods to eat you can eat freely and foods that you should consider limiting, particularly those foods that are highly acidic.
Okay.
Now you may drop some weight, but that weight is acidic weight and the body is going to slough it off. But you can get stronger and faster and leaner. Strength will increase. So if you're doing isotonic type exercises, strength exercises, you'll notice you'll be able to lift more and it'll be easier for you and you'll get stronger from that because the focus now is not on protein, it's on building blood. So the key to health is building blood because blood is the foundational stem cell for building all other body cells, including muscle, because muscle is made from blood. And you build blood with the foundational elements, which I call the COWS program, which is discussed in chapter 5 of the pH Miracle book, the revised and updated. It's the pub dates on that 2010. So do you have some support there at home to help you with this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, if you could just kind of send me that list of, like the green drink, the chlorophyll, and then
I'm gonna send all
um,
that to you. Yes,
okay, perfect.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna send you a list of a few things and a few suggestions that will help you.
Okay,
Yeah, and I have your email address, correct?
you do, yep.
All right. Well, give me a day or so, and I'll put all that together for you. I may be able to get it done today, but if not, I'll get it done before the weekend. In the
Sure,
meantime,
absolutely.
keep your cardio up, breathing exercise. Go out and get some good water to drink. Try to cut down on some of the more acidic foods like eggs and chicken and pork. So no bacon, no eggs, that type of thing. Go more to high water content foods. And if you go to the bookstore, I don't know, Barnes and Noble, if they're around in your area, you can pick it up, or you can get the digital copy on Amazon if you want to start reading chapter 5 and chapter 11 of the pH Miracle revised and updated book.
Okay,
Anyway, here's another book that was just released called Alkaline. This is one of my patients. He was a world
okay,
champion. He was a world champion kick boxer. Uh, so he's still in great shape, even in his 40s.
yeah,
So his name is Ian Jacklin. He has a Facebook page called I Cure Cancer. So I Cure CURE Cancer. If you want to look him up, his
okay,
name is Ian Jacklin. But he wrote a book on my mindset. I don't know. This is what he looks like today. Okay. So
okay,
the other guy is like this. This was an airplane pilot. See this guy?
okay, yeah.
Before, 12 weeks later. I took him
Hmm.
completely off beef, chicken, pork, and fish because you don't build muscle with protein. You build muscle with greens, chlorophyll, oil,
Sure,
water, and salt. So he gained. He actually won the. Have you heard the Fit for Life contest?
I've
It's
heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, where the winner gets a big fat check. He won that. He lost 31
Hmm.
pounds of fat and gained 18 pounds of muscle.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he's an airplane pilot.
Okay,
That's what he looked like. That's what he looked like as an airplane pilot, eating airplane food, and this is
right.
after.
Hmm.
That was 3 weeks. That's 90 days.
Yeah,
So biologically, that's how you get strong. You
okay,
get strong by building blood. So rather than muscles will grow, blood will flow there, blood will differentiate, blood will become new mesoderms and muscle cells through your isotonic exercising. Uh, this is something you're disciplined enough to do this. I can tell, and
yeah,
you want this opportunity to go to flight school. So yeah,
yeah.
the only thing standing in your way is you.
All right.
So you just have to look at some of the other athletes that have accomplished great things. Pick up Brady's book, TB12, Tom Brady
Hmm.
12. Look at what he's doing. Pick up the pH Miracle book, revised and updated. Uh, do your exercise daily. Start drinking alkaline water, building blood through green foods and green drinks, and you'll be great. You'll pass with flying colors. Then we can show.
Awesome.
We'll have a before and after.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have the quantifying test for the broccoli bronchial dilator testing that you did.
yeah,
See
for
see
sure.
that improvement. All right. Well, any other questions, or did we catch everything?
I, I think that pretty much covers it. Got enough to go off of for a while here, so
All right.
I appreciate everything. So
All right. Great. Brad, nice
We'll be in
chatting
touch
with
soon,
you.
I hope.
All right. Yeah, I'll send that out to you. If you have any questions, we'll talk again. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, sir.
All right. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.